Derby Wars, racing's biggest contest site, is now even bigger with more than 200 games every day. Check out Survivor, Derby Wars' hottest new game. It's fun, easy to play, and for just $4 you could win $1,000. Just pick a horse to finish first, second, or third and advance to the next race. With daily payouts and games starting every hour, you'll see why fans are racing to play Survivor.
Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and as always, I have the outstanding pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. How are you today, Matt?
I'm great, Brian. What a weekend of racing. It's good to have you back from London.
I'm back. I watched the big racing from South Florida, Matt. It was the first edition. I hope there's more. The $12 million. I don't see any reason why there won't be more, or maybe a few reasons, but I digress. The $12 million Pegasus World Cup attracted the two best dirt horses in the world, Matt. Arrogate put on a show. California Chrome came back with a sore knee.
Yep, Brian, all of the hype, and it's been an exciting January. Not that we want to get into too much about whether the race is going to go next year or anything, but it sure added a lift to horse racing in January. So much to talk about, and usually a quiet time. So I applaud the Pegasus World Cup.
Yeah, it's interesting, Matt. The Dubai World Cup. We don't know if Arrogate's going to go for sure. I did talk to Lord Teddy Grimthorpe at the World's Best Horse Racing, and this, of course, was before the Pegasus, and he seemed to have an open mind about letting the horse tell them if he's really doing well. The Pegasus certainly is, the World Cup, the Dubai World Cup, is certainly on the table, but we'll see. It might take away from the Dubai World Cup and might be fine for the rest of the year as far as whether it fractures the season at all. But yeah, I'm with you. It was a very exciting January just because of this. Most years, I think it might be a more competitive race on paper. This year, it was seemingly top-heavy with the top two. Obviously, Matt, the two big stories that came out of the Pegasus World Cup were Arrogate looked every bit as good in this race as he did in the Travers and the Breeders' Cup Classic. All those wins in a row now, and now three big wins in a row. Obviously, Arrogate is the real deal. There can be no doubting that. I see people talking about him being one of the best horses in the last 20, 30, 40 years. I'm not ready to say that, but just on potential alone and how he looks in these races, what he's doing in these big races, he has the potential to be there. But with only 3 stakes wins, I'm holding off a little bit more till he accomplishes even more, although he's already, I guess, the 6th richest horse in the world and the 2nd richest in North American history.
Yeah, Brian, I completely agree with that. What he has done so far, those last 3 races have been absolutely fantastic. He has won those races with style and ease. But again, it's too soon for me to even think about ranking Arrogate with the greats. He's only run 7 races. I want to see him do more. Is there much question in my mind that when he runs again, that he's going to do great things? Probably very little doubt in my mind, but I still need to see that. For me, greatness means some longevity. And I understand he didn't start till he was late in his 3-year-old year, and he's had some problems. He's double Mr. Prospector on the male side and the female side. So some of the problems that he's had are not surprising, and he's going to be lightly raced, no question.
He'll be lightly raced, but on the other hand, if he just picks and chooses these races like he's done over the last 4 or 5 months, the Travers, the Breeders' Cup Classic, and the Pegasus World Cup, who cares if he's lightly raced? And yeah, the power, the speed, he just looks the part of a really, really outstanding, great horse. But I'm with you. Longevity is part of that deal, and he's not there yet. So hopefully we get to see him get there over the next year or so. Arrogate was everything that we could have hoped for in the Pegasus World Cup. Unfortunately, California Chrome was not. Matt, this doesn't take away from California Chrome's legacy in any way. Obviously, on the backstretch, later in the backstretch on the turn, you could see Victor pumping and working on him, and he just didn't have any horse. We found out afterward that he came out of it with a bad knee. It doesn't look like it's a serious injury, but just enough to bother him during the race and for him to not run near 100%. It's a shame. Everybody was saying Arrogate, this is proof that Arrogate is better than California Chrome. Maybe Arrogate was great again, but obviously California Chrome just did not run his race.
Yep, Brian, and like we said, we talked about longevity, and California Chrome had that longevity in his career. The earnings, the big wins, the 2-year-old, 3-year-old years, phenomenal. 4-year-old year, not so much. 5-year-old year, terrific, fantastic, and all the accolades that horse has earned over the years, the fans that horse has gained over the years, all well-deserved. And he's off. He's settled in nicely at TaylorMade Farms, starting his next career. Brian, I hope you have the opportunity to go and visit Chrome one of these days.
Oh, of course we will. Brett and I will be out there sometime soon, Matt. I'm sure of that. Yeah, California Chrome. I consider myself a historian. I love stakes racing. I love looking back at all the great horses that I've been seeing for over 40 years, and even before I was born. I would rate California Chrome the second greatest California-bred racehorse of all time. Swaps would be my first. California Chrome, I've seen a lot of great Calbreds over the years, Best Pal, Lava Man, and even going farther back. But I think Chrome accomplished more than any of them since Swaps, just really since he made that huge splash late in the season as a 2-year-old. Very, very, very good 3-year-old, certainly the 3-year-old of the year. And he was the horse of the year that year. 4-year-old year started off very well with 2 good performances before getting hurt. 5-year-old was awesome. And unfortunately, his only race at 6 was a disappointment, but that has nothing to do with him or his career. It has everything to do with it wasn't his day. I don't think there's a lot of point in going over analyzing this race in too much depth, Matt, because frankly, Arrogate just dominated, and he looked like he was going to dominate on the far turn. Shaman Ghost, Neolithic. Shaman Ghost especially made a very nice rally on a track not always easy to rally on. For second, announces himself as a player in the handicap division this year. And Neolithic, the youngest horse in the race, ran a very good race on the front end and hung on quite well.
Yep, and Brian, I think we did a pretty good job analyzing the race on the last show. I liked Arrogate in there. You loved Shaman Ghost. So I think we did a nice job there.
Well, I would say Arrogate and Shaman Ghost did a much better job than us, Matt. But hey, we can give ourselves a little bit of a pat on the back. The Poseidon was a really nice race on the undercard, Matt. Now, the Poseidon, of course, was the race kind of the also eligibles that didn't run in the Pegasus. I wonder if Luch Racing is a little disappointed that they didn't go with Imperative instead of War Story. Imperative, of course, won in a very exciting edition of the Poseidon, while War Story finished in the middle of the pack in the Pegasus.
Yeah, and it was a stretch drive in that race between Imperative and Stanford. Stanford from the Pletcher barn, a horse that had run big and loves Gulfstream Park before. And wow, those two battled it down the wire. And like you said, the Luch Stables, Imperative, just got his head up. They were head bobbing going to the wire. Real nice win there for those connections.
Yeah, I would say Imperative and Stanford ran well enough to be involved in the Pegasus result. Obviously not Arrogate involved, but maybe they get passed by Shaman Ghost, but maybe they're at least right there with Neolithic, or maybe even ahead of Neolithic. So very good race in the Poseidon. Imperative is one of those horses who's on his day can do some big things, but Stanford, I thought, ran a huge race, a very brave race, because he was pressured the whole way. And he was obviously in that stretch to the whole stretch where he never gave up. Stanford, if he sticks around this year, is a horse I think can do some big things.
Yep.
All right, Matt. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think both of them are going to do some good things in the handicap division. Both of them former horses who did well in the Charlestown Classic.
That's right, Charlestown Classic champs, dueling it out in the Poseidon. Matt, let's switch gears. This is going to be a big week and probably the first big week for the Kentucky Derby preps. We got preps all over the place this weekend. We have the Holy Bull, we have the Robert B. Lewis, we got the Withers, we got a great filly matchup in the Lados Virginis. We even have an allowance race Friday at Gulfstream Park, all with a lot of Kentucky Derby implications. We should note that this was future wager number 2 of Pool 2 this past weekend, and it was interesting to see the results from that pool.
Yeah, it was, and I actually made a couple of bets in the future wagers. I did a couple of exacta boxes, Brian. I put Battalion Runner with the field, and I bet McCracken with the field. Just a couple bucks.
Just a couple bucks. It's fun, Matt, and I certainly urge people to get involved just for the fun. I also did a little bit. I only made one wager, and that was I couldn't resist the 90. I believe it was 94-1 odds on Wild Shot, who I think is a horse. George Rusty Arnold has him, who could be a very, very good horse. And at $100 and almost $90 payoff for a $2 wager, I couldn't resist putting a few on Wild Shot in there. Real quick, Matt, that Derby future wager featured, of course, the field was still the favorite, 5-2, less bet than the first one. But then we had Classic Empires, the 5-1 individual favorite. McCracken and Mastery were basically co-second choices at 9-1. Motown, American Anthem got a lot of support, 15-1 co-fourth choices. Going down the list, Gormley was respected at 19-1. Practical Joke was 20-1. Battalion Runner, with only that maiden win in his second race, was really liked, and I had a hard time keeping him out of my top 10. 22-1. Gunavera and Uncontested rounded out the top 10 at 24 and 25-1. Anything surprise you with those odds?
Well, certainly Battalion Runners getting bet just off that recent maiden win. But as you said, Brian, Battalion Runner is in on Friday at Gulfstream Park. And I think part of that was that Battalion Runner was really flattered when the horse that he beat handily in that maiden race came back at Gulfstream this past weekend and ran a huge race and blew his field away. And I think a lot of people knew that really flattered Battalion Runner even more.
Yeah, Looking at 8, of course, was well beaten by Battalion Runner in their meeting a little while ago. I guess that was New Year's Eve. And then Looking at 8 looked very good this weekend. So he might be another one to watch, but certainly flattered Battalion Runner from the Todd Pletcher barn. All right, Matt, this weekend, I think the big one, the headliner, is going to be the Holy Bull, and it's the headliner because of two horses. First off, we have Classic Empire, who was the 2-year-old champion, but I think more so than that, for me, he was one of the better Breeders' Cup, or at least as far as potential as a 3-year-old. He's one of the better Breeders' Cup juvenile winners in many years. I thought him and both Not This Time, who unfortunately are retired, looked heads and tails above the rest of the field in the juvenile. And I think Classic Empire has every reason to go forward. So I'm excited for him, the son of Pioneer of the Nile, out of the Marcassi barn, to be debuting Saturday at Gulfstream in the Holy Bull.
Yeah, and I agree with your comment about Classic Empire in the juvenile. He was not one of those juvenile winners that we've seen in the past that were just kind of hanging on at the end of that distance going 2 turns. He had plenty of run left, and like you said, Brian, he beat a very, very good horse in Not This Time. Nice race, the Holy Bull, coming back. Also Gunavera, so it's not going to be an easy spot for Classic Empire to be making his debut, but I'm pretty sure that the Cassie barn will have him ready.
Now, Gunavera, of course, ran a very, very interesting race when last seen. That was the Delta Downs Jackpot, and visually, we're talking about a small racetrack with those kind of tight turns and maybe some speed that was coming back to him, but visually, there weren't many more impressive 2-year-old races than Gunavera in the Delta Downs Jackpot, where he just exploded on the backside and just looped the entire field and won for fun that day. Gunavera has raced Classic Empire once before at Keeneland. He didn't fare great that day, but combined with his win at Saratoga and the Saratoga Special, Gunnevera, the son of Dialed In, it looks like a serious Derby horse as well. So it'll be interesting to see how both of them come in off a little layoff and how they do their first time out at Gulfstream. So the Holy Bull is the prep of the week. But on the filly side, if you're looking for fillies that maybe could run in the Kentucky Derby, even that's not out of the question. There were a few nominated, by the way, for the Derby, but certainly for the Kentucky Oaks, the Las Virgenes, which always was a Grade 1 race until recently, but might be upgraded again from recent years, has attracted the 2-year-old filly champion Champagne Room off her Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies win, which was an upset, but she won it nicely. And then Unique Bella, who has to be the most talked about 3-year-old filly, young 3-year-old filly in the country by a long way right now.
Yeah, Champagne Room is up against it in her return to the races as a 3-year-old, because Unique Bella was a wow in that race, and I'm looking forward to seeing that matchup, but I'm looking for Unique Bella there.
Yeah, I'm with you, Matt. It's kind of strange to see a 2-year-old filly champion who's coming off of a victory probably not even be close to the favorite in here. Now, I bet Champagne Room a little bit. She was one of my best long shots at the Breeders' Cup, and she ran a very good race, obviously, to win the race. But yeah, in this race, I don't like her chances much at all, unless Unique Bella doesn't run a race. I think Unique Bella, bred to the hilt, the daughter of Tappet and Unrivaled Belle, is a special kind of filly, or at least she looks like that so far. And I think Champagne Room is up against it, at least to some extent, and the odds probably will show that a little bit. But if she runs her best, it should at least add a new test for Unique Bella. Also, Matt, we have the Robert B. Lewis, and it doesn't look like we're getting any big names in the Robert B. Lewis, at least at this point, unless there's some surprises. I know Sheer Flattery's talking about it, but the fillies I'm more interested in out in California. Now, the Withers is interesting because it brings back El Arib. The Withers is also Saturday at Aqueduct, and El Arib looked like $1 million. He was winning those races at Laurel so nicely. He came up to New York for the Jerome, and you saw how good he looked in the Jerome.
Yep, and I'm looking forward to seeing him at Aqueduct on Saturday, and he'll have the opportunity to answer the main question that I had coming out of the Jerome, which was that was a very, very wet and sloppy track win by open lengths. And after that race, I said I want to see him on the dry track, and it looks like we're going to have a dry track for the Withers on Saturday, so I'm looking forward to that. Not sure how much strong competition he's going to have in there. Maybe we're looking at a bunch of horses who have just won their maiden, but either way, El Arib is a horse that is in my top 10 right now.
Yeah, and he's close to my top 10. The only reason I probably don't have him in the top 10 is I worry about exchange rates going 10 furlongs, but El Arib looked like the real deal in the Jerome. That's good news on the track condition, Matt. Unfortunately, we have had a lot of rain around the country so far, and some early Derby preps have been consistently on wet tracks all over the country so far. So hopefully we have a nice week or two. The Sam F. Davis and McCracken against some good horses is coming a week after that at Tampa Bay Downs. We mentioned Battalion Runner. There's some decent horses, including a Graham Motion horse supposed to be running in that race on Friday at Gulfstream. So we're really going to get cooking with these Derby horses, Matt. I know you had El Arib and Practical Joke quite a bit higher than me. I'm still waiting for Saints Fan, that Louisiana bred from Dallas Stewart, to come back. He was up on my top 10 this week. But one thing for certain is we're not lacking in Kentucky Derby contenders as we move just about 3 months away from the Derby now.
Yeah, I think the lists are actually very, very long still. A lot of horses with the trendies in the last few years to get them started later on. Horses that won their maiden in December and January. Is there enough time for them to get rolling? I know Pletcher's had several, 3 or 4 horses, even beyond Battalion Runner, that have looked really, really impressive in the first month of the Gulfstream meeting.
Absolutely, Matt. It's going to be an exciting 3 months, as it always is. We love the lead up to the Kentucky Derby, folks. As my parting shot, I just want to congratulate 2 horses again for what happened last week. Number 1, Arrogate. Arrogate has proven himself as the best horse in the country, the best dirt horse in the world. I'll even go in the head and say the best horse in the world right now. He is really something. We hope we see a lot more from Arrogate, and his run in the Pegasus was fantastic. Congratulations to California Chrome, not for Saturday's race, but for everything else he's done over the last 4 years. Just a great warrior, a great ambassador for racing. We wish him the very best. It's nice to hear that the knee is nothing it looks like to worry about too much. He's going to start his second career very shortly. Matt, before I get your parting shot, there have been some words, even from TaylorMade, that it's possible that he could come back after the breeding season to run. What do you think about that?
Well, that would be a wonderful bonus for us race fans, but I don't know, Brian. We'll see after the breeding season. But hey, that would be terrific if Chrome came back and ran. Wow.
I don't know if I want to see it. It would be huge news. It would be huge news, but I'm almost to the point where I think he's done enough. But there's a lot of money. There's more money out there on the table than there was ever before for horses who run on the dirt. So that's at least an interesting thought. Parting shots from you, sir.
I just want to say congratulations to our producer, Brett. We're going to call him Vegas Workman now, who's back from the NHC, where he had a great time and represented HorseCenter in style.
One of the nicest guys in the industry, Brett Workman, the Las Vegas hitman. He did well. He finished in the almost the top fourth of the field, and he's still pretty inexperienced out there. So I think he's only going to get better as he goes out there every year, Mr. Workman. Folks, thanks as always for watching HorseCenter. We appreciate you really tuning in, especially the last few weeks as we're talking Pegasus and now Kentucky Derby. Thank you as always to the best contest site out there. That's Derby Wars, our favorite sponsor. We'll see you again next week right here on HorseCenter.